got to get an updated picture of you, brother. You know, you don't have any hair no more.
Seriously. Might
Welcome
just be what's happening here?
You all right?
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear
You see
you.
me blinking like that?
Well, we can hear you and see you.
Okay. You don't see the screen blink green?
No.
Okay. No, it's all good. It's good now. Never mind.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm so glad to catch up with you because you are the only person that I know of that has modified this system and to a better. The last person that modified it, I will not use his name. I have respect for him as a teacher, and I don't want to tarnish that. But as a teacher, he always said, "Do not modify what I teach you until you've mastered what I've taught you."
What have I modified?
Well, in other words, he deals with K&F stuff. So there's like preparations, there's recipes for each preparation.
But for me, what have I modified?
You added more organic matter in the A.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into that in a minute. But for now, let me finish explaining what this guy did. He was posting reels on Instagram showing that he installed logs in the Horizon. And I posted on top of his post, "Please do not do that. It will go anaerobic." And no response, no like, no nothing. He just kept doing it. So then they built their A Horizon and their O Horizon on top of that. Well, lo and behold, about
was probably like a Hugel culture type of mentality.
Yeah, not in the A, not in the E Horizon. You can do that in the A, no problem. But you're going to go anaerobic if you bury logs in the sand, right?
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, lo and behold, 9 months later, I see a post again from his Instagram stating that the Horizonal system doesn't work and it's a problem, blah 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 blah. So I reached out by a text and I said, "Dude, take that down. That's a lie. You modified it, and I told you not to, and you failed. And now your client, which I was supposed to be part of the consulting team, is now got to rip out his commercial friggin' Horizonal system, which is an absolute nightmare, and start over again." And of course, he didn't want to do it again because he was given misinformation, and the person that instructed him to add the logs basically wouldn't own up to the fact that he fucked it up. Now, I got another dude that's been bashing the Horizonal system. And I'm not afraid to say his name, Tad Hussey from Kiss Organics. And he calls it a perched water table. Now, what a perched water table is actually when it's used in professional sports turf. Professional sports turf is engineered soil that has 98 to 99% sand, no silt, no clay, and 1 to 2% organic matter. And what happens is that's perfect for putting greens and soccer fields and football fields because the water goes right through the sand, but because they have the liner underneath, the moisture doesn't keep going. It wicks up and keeps the engineered soil at the perfect moisture. And then when it gets too low, they just add more water from the bottom or water the top. Doesn't matter. It gets down and hits the liner.
Yeah.
That's a perched water table. So again, these people who have overinflated egos that don't want to take the time to actually learn what this system is and what it's about are the ones that badmouth it. And that's why, when Ken suggested we do this, I was like, you know what? This is a great idea, because all of the people that will be or have been on the podcast that have used this on scale have had tremendous success. And even people, with tents have called me and said, what a great system this is.
Yeah. I think there's so many variables and there's so many ways to screw it up. And, it's easy when you grow cannabis to blame something on one thing. But like I said, there's so many variables that sometimes you just don't know. And I can imagine, like, okay, if you straight up don't listen to Leighton, well, okay, it's probably not going to turn out well. But even if you listen to Leighton, there's subtleties like, okay, sand, silt, and clay, sure, it sounds simple, but it's not. Do you really have your ratios of sand, silt, and clay right? Are the sand particles the right size? Did you put enough organic matter? Is the pH right? Like I said, there's so many ways you can take this great natural thing and still screw it up and blame it on you. So it doesn't surprise me. That being said, like, just to touch on what you said, that I modified it again, like, it's hard to say how to interpret how much organic matter you put in, because sure, you can go by volume, but how compressed is that volume? What does that volume represent in weight? I don't know. There's so many ways to calculate it. So for me, sure, adding organic matter solved issues that I was having. That being said, we touched on this on another episode. But a thing that it did was that the organic matter that I used is the compost that I made from my own cannabis waste, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that compost really has the ability to stabilize pH. So we were just talking last time, is it because I put more organic matter, or is it because I stabilized my pH that was very acidic before I put it in? Right.
My gut feeling is you killed two birds with one stone. So by using cannabis compost, it's going to be a more stable organic matter. It's not going to just get chewed up really easy because there's a lot of lignin and cellulose in it. So that's a more long-lasting version of the compost. It's also exactly what the plant wants to eat. It doesn't have to work harder. It gets exactly what it wants to uptake.
Yeah.
And it did stabilize the pH. Now, where is your pH at this point down in the
horizon? I'll be honest with you. I'm not digging down anymore to figure it out. Just because I'm not having any issues. Not that I don't care, but I have a lot of other things to think about than pH right now. It's just not an issue. Bottom line, when I was testing it myself with, I have a pretty high-end Blue Labs soil pH meter, and I was around the 6.5, up from around 5.5 before I added the compost. But all this being said, like, if I started and did what you said about per volume, I think it's like 20% organic matter, 80% sand, silt, and clay. Is that it?
Yep, it's 30% silt and clay. I like 17% clay, 13% silt, but that can vary a little bit as long as you get something close, to an equal portion. 50% sand, which is for drainage and structure, and then 20% organic.
Right. So if I would have put 20% by volume of this compost, this would have been a huge amount of compost, really. Like, I would have had to recycle a lot of grows, to get to that amount. So I added just like a super soil peat based, so it's just not the same again.
No.
There's not all that complexity that I don't really understand all the beauty in compost, right? So if I would have went 20% my own compost, again, which would have been relatively speaking a huge amount of compost, maybe it would have worked right there at that ratio also.
Yeah, it's something else to point out that I tell people to go ahead and use super soil. But in reality, it's better to use compost because of the complexities, right?
But finding that much high quality compost, that's the challenge.
Well, even if it's low grade, right? Even low grade compost, yard waste compost, is going to be better than peat moss. peat moss has no nutrition. It doesn't have any complexity to it.
Yeah. So when it started working really well for me with no issues, the Horizonal system, is when I built my second room and I sourced my sand, silt, and clay from a different source. And this source told me that they used a bunch of compost, which I don't know the quality of it. That being said, I lab tested everything you could lab test. And everything was very good. You know, the nutrient ratios were actually pretty darn good. No environmental contaminants, no high lead or cadmium or arsenic or nothing like that. No pesticides, nothing. It was all clean. No phosphorus rate out of whack or nothing like that. So, and the pH was 6.5, right? So
was that a super soil made with compost?
No, I bought that at a sort of local pit where they just sell a bunch of landscaping stuff, and I chose their garden soil. And I did a lot of testing just before going all in on this. Like, we're talking a bunch of lab tests, but also like testing a plant in a pot, stuff like that. And I finally ordered a pile, and the pile sat during summer, and it got covered in lush plants. So I was like, okay, I'm feeling good about this. And that room really worked out. Incredible. So that's when I went back to my first room. I dug out the beds and I added some compost. So everything's cool now.
Nice. So are you still growing the cultivars that were showing those leaf spots?
Not currently, no, but pretty much all cultivars were showing it. And then now I've grown a lot of cultivars since adding the compost, and no issues whatsoever. I actually had to dig out quite a few spots in the bed a third time. And what I noticed was there were these isolated spots where I was still seeing the spots in the leaves and those problems. And I figured out that I think we might have actually touched on this last time I spoke to you, but there were areas where I didn't properly mix the compost, and where the plants were showing signs of deficiencies and problems. And I'm saying deficiencies, it could be toxicities too. I would mostly suspect toxicities because the soil has such a low pH that I think maybe micronutrient uptake was too much. And that being said, I was finding these pockets deep in the A horizon that hadn't been properly mixed, right? So as soon as the plant was tapping into that little spot in the soil, boom, it was showing that symptom.
You know what? That could have been either one traditional newt lock, where like calcium or magnesium, shit gets too out of balance, and it prevents microbes from coming up, or maybe give too many microbes coming up. So it could have been either. And this goes back to the periodic table and how important it is for people to understand that if you don't have any molybdenum, it's going to grab something that's really close on atomic weight level. And that's what causes those kinds of deficiencies. But we're talking about stuff that typical cannabis growers aren't going to go that deep on. Like they know their plants, they love their plants. But when you get into subatomics and, atomic particle weight and shit, it's kind of a little bit deep. But I'm not to say that some don't go there, but for the most part, they just automatically start throwing things at the plant to see if they can correct it instead of really trying to understand the science behind why it's showing a problem.
Yeah. So bottom line, Um, it was hitting those little pockets that weren't properly mixed and showing those signs of toxicity or symptoms. And anyway, what I found interesting, what was bothering me the most out of that was the smoke, I'll tell you. Because in the end, even if it was showing those symptoms, the final product looked really good. It didn't really affect the look of the bud. It didn't affect the lab testing, nothing. And it did really well on the market. So, like at a consumer level, these problems were not noticeable. All right. But for me, I couldn't live with it for sure.
That's
And
what I love about you, Tom. I love
funny,
it about you.
and funny enough, I'm not a big joint smoker. I've always had a Volcano. Okay, a Volcano is like a high-end vaporizer. I love it. But pretty much every time I smoke a joint, which is still pretty often, is to smoke test because I know that a lot of people that buy my flower are going to smoke it. So I want to have the best smoke possible. So even though I'm more of a Volcano guy, um, I don't know. I'm going to say I probably smoke like a joint a day, and it's part of a side by side test.
Yep.
Okay. And I wasn't happy with the smoke. It's like I said, consumer level, fine. But when you were reaching halfway, it wasn't halfway in the joint. It wasn't that it was harsh. It wasn't making you cough, but it was just like, if you take a toke, I think that you should keep the smoke in your mouth for a few seconds just for the flavor to coat your mouth. And then you should do the inhale exhale. And the flavor just wasn't coating the mouth as it should have. And I think it was irritating the mouth a little bit. So on the inhale, it was smooth, but in the mouth, it was irritating. And anyway, that completely went away with either stabilizing the pH or adding organic matter or whatever it was. So it became a non-issue. And ever since, I still want to get to the bottom of things, like what makes the best look, what makes the best smoke, et cetera, et cetera. So I have a lot of shit to talk about tonight because I've been doing a lot of side by sides, and I think you'll be interested in particular ones I've been doing. So once,
hang on, before we go too much further.
yeah,
What that was improper flavonoid development. The terps were there, the compounds, THC and CBD and all that, they were there. But the flavonoids, that thing that will stick to the inside of your mouth, that's why we call it flavor, hadn't properly developed or had overdeveloped or underdeveloped.
Awesome. Well, that's a big subject that I'm interested in knowing what you think. Is I wonder like why some smokes are harsher than other and what makes smoke harsh. And people are really hung up on white ash, right?
Yep.
Have you seen those debates? Like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
I believe it.
But bottom line, people want to buy weed at the store and smoke it and see white ash. So I have to figure out how to make my ash as white as possible.
So what that is too much carbon. So if you have a plant that uptakes a lot of carbon, that's what's going to create that harshness, in your throat and your lungs. It also is going to make the ash not as white. It's not going to hurt you, but it just means that your biology was not perfectly balanced. And what I mean by that is that bacteria can be controlled by the plant as well as by the protozoa, right? The protozoa eat them and then they take in the carbon and release all the other things. Now, if the plant kills the bacteria, right, by starving it out. So we all know the plant can increase the population of certain types of bacteria that are providing certain nutrients for it.
Yeah.
So when the plant decides it wants that nutrient, like it starts by growing them out, and then the plant decides it wants them, it starves them. So now when the plant absorbs the what they call cytoplasm of the actual bacteria, it's going to have a higher carbon content because the protozoa didn't eat it and take the carbon away. So it literally goes back to making sure you have high levels of protozoa and nematodes, which will pre-digest the bacteria and remove the carbon.
So you're saying that it's taking up this carbon, like this undigested carbon?
Yep, that because the bacteria has carbon in it. Okay. It has like I'm going to use this as a rule of thumb, but please don't hold me to it because science is coming out all the time telling us different things. But typically we use the rule of thumb as 1-to-1. 1 nitrogen to 1 carbon was critical for all life.
Okay.
Or bacterial life. When we get older or we get more advanced, then that seed-end relationship changes. Like we are 25-to-1, I think, or something.
So what does carbon look like when it's uptaken in the plant? Like it's not phosphorus. Like it's
right. Carbon is like, we shouldn't even talk about NPK unless we use CNPK. All right. Carbon is the building block of all life. It's very, very important. N can't work without carbon because most bacteria use the carbon to break down as a fuel source to break down the minerals that it's eating from rocks, sand, silt, clay, and organic matter. So that carbon is a critical source of energy for the bacteria. We typically see this in like engineered soils that have like no carbon at all. And, the field looks great when they put it down and they keep fertilizing it, but they don't add any carbon. And so the bacteria just start chewing up what little organic matter is there till it gets to nothing. And then the surface on the grass just starts dying and they start having all kinds of problems because they didn't use a compost extract.
Yeah.
When you see chocolate water, that's all tiny little particles of carbon. And again, the backbone for bacteria to divide. Like they need more carbon when they want to divide, right? But the carbon gets removed through the nutrient cycling system, being that when the protozoa or nematodes eat them, it's the plant doesn't.
But like, let's say you're growing soilless. So like in cocoa or maybe even in Rockwell, is there carbon there?
There would be carbon there, yes. Rockwell, probably not as much. But if you're in cocoa or peat moss, there's definitely carbon.
So definitely wheat can be harsh, let's say in Rockwell. So yeah. What's making that wheat harsh?
So it's probably the NPK, dude. Right? You can't grow
like too much NPK.
It's synthetic forms of salt-based fertilizers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been the thing. Like when I started, doing the conferences, and this was back in 17, 18, and I got to hang out with these old time growers and smoke regenerative organic cannabis. And they would send me samples. And if I bought shit from, like a dispensary or something, it always burned my throat. I always knew it was grown synthetically.
Yeah.
But when I smoked their shit, never hurt my throat. Always tasted good. The high was wonderful. It wasn't too friggin' couch locky.
Yeah. So I wonder, like when I had that A Horizon that wasn't quite performing, why would that have harshened the smoke a bit?
Because you were in anaerobic conditions. When you had too much compost, the pH drops. Now you're in it, pushing into anaerobic environment, which is a completely different digestion.
Yeah, this was the A Horizon before I added the compost, right? When it was showing me those spots in the leaves.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why. Like, would it have been like the plant maybe uptaking too many micronutrients, making it
Uh,
a
I
little harsher?
I doubt it. I doubt it was micro. I would believe it was macro. But again, when you're in the pH, you're limiting the biology to mine different nutrients. So now plants uptaking the bacteria that didn't have the proper balance in its pantry.
And at the same time, though, what weirds me out is like you have this perfect O horizon that's really performing too. So if it's missing anything, like shouldn't it be able to go and grab it in the O? You know what I mean?
Well, the
Obviously,
O is a different animal because only certain microbes live on the O, live on the
yeah,
organic. There's other microbes that live on the sandstone clay that can pull different nutrients, right?
yeah,
But they can't live on organic matter. That's not the way evolution worked. They live on sand or silt or clay.
yeah,
And then there's a whole different community that live on organic matter. So is the material in the organic matter? To some degree, and as it breaks down, it will release, but not by bacterial, but by decomposition. And then that nutrient becomes mobile. And if you top water, it's just going to wash down into the liquid or into the sand,
yeah,
unless it gets hung up on a CEC site. See that now we're getting into cations and anions, and that's another whole level of conversation that probably will go over a lot of people's heads. Because as soon as a nutrient is mobile and you have low CEC, that nutrient's gone. It's gone. It's just going to float down into out of your soil profile, right? Or get stuck in an anaerobic layer, like you see plow pan. When you're working outdoor in fields, you'll often see this black layer of soil down around, depending on how deep they plow, and that's called plow pan or compaction zone.
yeah,
And it's black because it's anaerobically digested.
yeah,
So if you're aerobically digesting in the right pH, then everything is perfect, right? But as soon as that pH drops, now you're creating a environment where anaerobes and facultative anaerobes can do the work, but the bacteria can't take up the nutrients that they need. Yeah. So that's why you have harsh tasting smoke.
Yeah, and again, it wasn't. Yeah, it was more the taste that was a little on the harsh side than the actual smoke in the lungs. But back to the side by sides I've been doing.
Yeah. You want to get into it?
Couple things is I actually decided, you know what? I've never grown in a bed without horizons, so I decided to dig out 2 squares worth, like what I consider squares in my beds. Like they're all made out of PVC and they kind of have squares of PVC 4x4 in my case. You know what I mean? In those indoor beds, like the grassroots beds. Anyway, I dug out 2 squares, and don't be scared there. I put a liner, but a liner just so it doesn't, the plant couldn't go in the horizons. It was just stuck in an O horizon bed. Yep. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's called a plant root barrier.
Okay. That's all I did. But that being said, and I can touch on my watering techniques a little later. Since my watering technique is so dependent on sub irrigation from the E horizon, I didn't dig out the E horizon.
Okay, you left it.
Yeah, so that was still connected.
All right, so you just basically eliminated the A horizon.
Yeah, I just wanted to see what would happen and if it would change the smoke, if it would change the look, anything like that. So one of the squares was my original top horizon, my O horizon, that made up just the O and the E. And then on the side, I made just my own mix using Pro Mix HP and amended. That's what I use in my R&D room, right? And my R&D room is I grow in pots, in small pots. I have 36 small pots on a 4x4 to give you an idea. And I actually go regenerative on it, believe it or not. Okay. So like after I do R&D runs, I still test the soil. I add compost, and I just readjust my nutrient ratios as per lab tests, and I just keep going in friggin' gallon pots. Okay.
All right. So let's talk
And it
about
actually works out.
let's talk about your amendments. Are they like rock dust, or are you actually using some salt-based products in when you
Mostly like when you use my compost, the only thing you really need is nitrogen and phosphorus.
And what are the sources you use?
Bone meal, and mostly nitrogen gets complicated a little bit. It's and that's another big topic I'd like to talk about. Is it sure it works with alfalfa mainly, a little bit of blood meal, and I use soybean meal also.
Okay. Yep.
But it's what's mainly going to get you out of trouble is for sure the nitrogen in the compost. Number one. Number two, my secret weapon right now is soybean derived amino acids.
Oh, aminos. I love aminos. That's
That's the biggest thing that
Dude,
I've been adding to my garden. That's been making everything better.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the main input so anyway, in those small pots, like I said, it's all of the compost.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting you. I want people to understand what amino acid is, right? So it's a process of pulling out the best part of the nitrogen, and it's in an amino acid form, which means the plant can take it up without anything else. You put it in the root ball, the plant can suck it up like a strawberry shake. Pulls right in.
And it seems like in my R&D, like you can't actually overdo it. I've tried to overdo it, and it seems like the more I water in amino acids, the better the weed is.
I know.
So,
that's the crazy. It's pre-digested. I'm sure there's a limit, dude. I'm sure there's a limit somewhere, right? But because it's so available, the bacteria can pull it up too, right? So it's not like you're waterboarding the plant. So the bacteria pull it up, the plant pulls it up, and as long as it's in the bacteria, it's stored in a way that as soon as a protozoa eat it, or we have what we call a microbe die-off or a bacterial die-off driven by the plant, that stuff's tied up. I mean, we've seen microbes like eat like horrific things like manure and just turn it into, something that is not mobile. And those bacteria go crazy on top of it because they're getting that high nitrogen source. So nature can balance a lot of shit, but when you get into foods that have been digested to that level, it's a party. Everybody gets it. So that's why you can't totally overdo it, but I'm sure there is a level at which point you choke everything out.
Yeah. So what I was getting at with all of this is I've been noticing big phenotypic expression differences between my R&D room in those pots and in the beds. And I wanted some answers. So that's why I did one of the squares in the beds that used my original Horizon. Okay. And I used like I said, a ProMix HP type of mix where I used that in my R&D room. And I wanted to see if I would see as many phenotypic expressions, many differences in the expressions. I would say the main difference between my two mixes, the mix in the beds, first of all, has pumice versus ProMix HP has perlite. And there must be different, obviously there are different grades of peat moss. The one that I have in my beds seems thicker and heavier than in ProMix HP. Like the ProMix HP is extra fluffy.
Is that because of water storage capacity?
Yeah. So, and that can have a really drastic effect on plants, or I thought it might. So, that being said, let's talk about the differences that I've seen between the plants, because I did a full grow like this.
All right, so
And
let's
bottom line,
were these stable genes popped from the seed, or were these clones?
all clones, all the same clone. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I even popped in a few different clones to see if they would have phenotypic differences, variations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So I didn't want to just go with the clone that I was growing commercially. I wanted to see what would happen. So I actually, I'm thinking about it. I just put another cut in there, another clone.
So you had two different phenotypes.
I had two different clones, right? So bottom line, the grow, I'll be honest with you, went really well with both, with the Horizons and the no Horizons. I would suspect that it went so well with the no Horizons because I still had an E Horizon.
Yep.
So if I would have been sub irrigating without an E Horizon, like I would never do that. That's stupid. You know, letting organic matter sit in water. No, like I've seen the results.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's called a swamp.
I know. Yeah, and the plants do not like it. So that's why I kept my E Horizon. I'm like, I'm not even trying this without it. Even in pots, I kind of have a faux E Horizon where I have like 1.5 inches of perlite at the bottom. So bottom line,
Did you send those to Andy to see what kind of microbes you had? Those test beds.
I did not. No, it would have been nice. It would have been nice. I didn't. That being said, it all turned out really well. There are differences though between the peat moss with the perlite versus the one with the pumice. Okay. And the one with the perlite that's fluffier, I gave videos of side-by-side buds to Ken. Maybe we could look at this. We could look at those if he has them.
Yeah, he's there whenever you need him.
Okay, yeah, let's check them out. So not that one. Yeah, that. Oh, okay, there's no quality. Shoot. Okay, you're not going to be able to tell.
Well, just explain what you want us to verbally.
Yeah, so the one in the ProMix HP, the difference were very subtle, but bottom line, it's hard to explain, man. Like the ones that were in the Horizons versus the one with just the O Horizon with pumice look extremely similar. Okay. There were differences with the ProMix HP mix, and the ProMix HP has less red hairs, okay, has less pistils, and it's a different color. It's Ken, a lighter color.
Can you kill the video so we can just continue with the finer details here? Thank you. All right,
so basically,
I understand.
In the pardon me?
I just basically want you to repeat what you just said so that I can follow the conversation, because I interrupted you to talk to Ken.
Sure.
So
the buds. Yeah, like A Horizon versus only Horizons, normal bed versus O Horizon only with pumice. Mm-hmm. Okay. Extremely similar in looks. Now, if you compared with the ProMix HP, that's where the different lies the most. Subtle difference. Again, consumer level, no difference. But for me, looking at it, there's less red hairs. There's less pistils in the Pro Mix with perlite. The plants are not as much of a dark green, a lighter green too. And I think that gives it the effect of being more crystallized.
Interesting.
And so is it really more crystallized? I'm not sure. But the more pistils you have, sure, pistils can be nice and lush orange and really cool looking, but it's not crystals. So if you have a lot of them, it looks less crystallized. And modern strains that are really hype and popular in the market, I've noticed, have a lot less pistils than the older strains. Have you noticed that?
No, but I'm not a grower, and I think we can talk on that. So what you're saying is that it's more in the perlite, it's more frosty, where in the lava rock, it's more pistily.
Slightly. And I mean, if you go across the grow, okay, all in horizons, just normal horizons, you do find pockets and you do find branches, plants that if you put them side by side, like they're different. First of all, there's ones that look slightly frostier than others, and you could even take some in the perlite one that looked a little less frosty than some in the horizons. But in general, the perlite ones were frostier.
Well, you just discovered something really amazing, is that you can kind of shift things. Like, I've always been against perlite because it floats to the top. But it obviously has a compound.
I don't like the idea of perlite either. And was it the perlite? Not necessarily. It could have been the grade of peat moss too.
Good point. Very valid point. I mean, this is why you do side by side.
Because the look is different. They're both. Yeah.
This is exactly why you do.
It's not like dig out the soil. Yeah, it's not like dig out the beds. We have to restart with perlite. No freaking way. And the subtleties are, like I said, very subtle. And even going to say like this one looks better than the other, it is up to your interpretation still. But in general, what people consider as like a modern weed look, it had, I don't know, 5 or 10% more that look in the Pro with perlite. That bag appeal.
Even though it had less pistils, its bag appeal was better in your mind.
And like I said, like today's weed doesn't have a lot of pistils. It's just ultra crystallized. It's all crystals.
Have you tried washing it?
And seeing how much yield I get.
Yeah, because that'll tell you exactly.
Well, yeah, and I haven't tried washing, but that being said, like cannabinoid and terpene tests come out similar in both, right? So it's not like it's more of a look thing.
In all three, or just in those two experimental pods?
So I didn't do the test in those three particular ones, but I've done a lot of testing in the beds and the same genotypes in the R&D room, which would be in super soil pots with perlite. And it's not like the ones in super soil pots and perlite generally have a little bit more bag appeal, but don't necessarily test higher.
Okay.
They don't test higher.
So it's like
right. So that's what I'm saying. Like the slight. Pardon me?
It's like a woman or women. You know, one could be slightly more attractive than the other, right? But it's still a woman. It still does the job. Still gets you what you want, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's just a look thing, and it's not a big difference either. But I'd like to figure out. I'm gonna keep trying to get to the bottom of it, sort of the reason why I'm seeing those phenotypic different variations. Now, another thing that I've done is grow the same cuts, okay, in the R&D room in small pots, right? And this particular cut that I did a big run of, that were in the beds that I had those couple squares dug out, didn't necessarily look better in the R&D room in the small pots,
So in other words,
compared to the 3 different tests that I did. Like,
I'm sorry, there must be a lag, because I'm like trying to stop you so that I can ask like you to be more specific on a certain topic, and then you freeze out.
You're cutting out.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably the internet connection. So
yeah, between California and the east coast of Canada, who knows what the internet's doing? Yeah,
So
there is a lag.
I'm gonna do this. So you stop, right? I don't have to interrupt you. I'll just go like this, and then you stop, and then I want to expand on that point. Dude, you're making so many interesting points. It's not funny, but we're not keeping up. Like, for instance, when you see a different branch on the same plant that looks a lot different, that's nature. Dude, that's nature doing her thing, man. Because the seeds that come off, if you let it go to seed, the seeds of those different branches are going to be different plants. That's what nature does. That's how nature is constantly evolving. So that's something that's really important to think about. Like, maybe if you really like this branch better than this branch on that cultivar, throw pollen chuck at it, see what happens. Put a baggie over it and let it seed out, and then pop those seeds and see what happens. Because that's like that could be like an evolutionary phase of that plant. And maybe it's better, maybe it's worse, but who knows, right? So that's one thing. And then as far as your next experiment in your R&D room, use lava rock in 3 or 4, and then use your regular perlite in 3 or 4, or the rest of them, right? And now you'll really start to understand if the perlite or the lava rock are the real things that are throwing crystals versus pistils, right?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. You're frozen.
Yeah, I think he totally froze up there. So,
all right. So what we're gonna do is tell him to unload and reload when he does come back.
Well, I think what I'll do is I'll kick him out, and then he'll have to come back.
You evil man, you.
Gotta do something. Now, I did have a question on those spots he was having problems with. If he hadn't have dug them out, would the biology have worked through them and balanced them out over time?
No, because it had to do with the pH being too low, right? Mm-hmm. So when the pH is too low, certain minerals are not available for the plant. So the plant's going to do something. It's going to either take up too much micronutrients or take up too much macronutrients, and those are going to cause spots that says, I'm sick, I have a deficiency issue.
Yeah.
And tells you got a problem before it dies, right? That there's something imbalanced, out of balance in the soil because of the pH, purely pH driven.
Okay. And Tom, what the question I asked is if you had just left those spots, if they would have, fixed themselves over time, and Leighton saying definitely not. Best thing you could have done was to dig those spots out.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Maybe it's going to go away with time, but it wasn't going away. But just to finish what I was saying with all my side by sides,
dude, you got cut off. You got cut off way back, like
right.
So
anyway, like the main cut that I did in the R&D room and the 3 different tests in the beds didn't have that many variations. That being said, I have another cut that I run that looked radically different in small pots in the R&D room, radically different than in the beds. And this is such a difference. It looked a lot more exotic in the small pots. So it was a big reason why I wanted to do this whole side-by-side test. And when I said that I added a second pheno or a second cultivar, a second genotype to see those variations, I did not see variations in the look in the horizons versus the two different O horizon only spots. Okay.
So the radical difference in the little pot very well could have been stress.
And that's what I wanted to know. And I think I got my answer. So some plants actually express themselves phenotypically a lot more exotic when they're constrained to a pot.
Yep. Yep. You're getting to a whole nother level. It's called stress reactions. So a buddy of mine, Alex, has a watering system that's 100% automated. You can what's called crop steer using water. It's amazing what he's done. Right? He came out of the software world, so he took all that knowledge and he made this system. And so he's up near you somewhere. And I've told him before, you guys got to connect. I told him to come meet you, and I gave him your contact information. But anyway, I'll get pissed off at him in another time. But right now, yeah, that is called crop steering or genetic manipulation. So you can see the different expressions from that plant under different conditions. You can get that from light, you can get that from water, you can get that from free running roots or root bound to shit. Like they grow those little bonsai trees. They fucking tie those things. They twist them in knots to bind them so the plant doesn't grow very big.
Yeah, so that's a big thing that I needed to get to the bottom of, because I run a bunch of seeds in those pots in my R&D room, and they look a certain way, but I have to rerun them in beds to see how they're going to perform in the beds, because it's just not the same thing. And I needed to know, like, is it the A horizon that's changing the phenotype? Or is it the pumice? Is it the perlite? Like, what's going on? So I tried all of these different ways, and bottom line, the bed, a big volume of soil, gave all similar looks, while this particular cut looks incredibly frostier in a small pot. That doesn't mean that the weed in general is better in a small pot. It's just
So my suggestion to you is that, again, you're talking about genetic manipulation and crop steering.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is you pull them out of your R&D room, and now you plant them, a couple in the Horizonal system and a couple in your other two experimental beds.
Yeah.
And now you get to see a variety of expressions from them.
Yeah.
And then you just say, hey, this is how I want to grow this cultivar.
Yeah. Well, I did more testing too with this particular cultivar, which had, again, great phenotypic variations. So you're talking about crop steering. Like, the way I see crop steering is playing a lot with watering, right? So I actually tried a grow in the beds where this took a lot of effort and a lot of tensiometers, but I let drybacks in the beds for full grow. So I watered about as much volume of water probably at the end of the grow as I would have usually, but the waterings were twice as much, and I let it dry for twice as much, right? And hitting drybacks versus not hitting drybacks, I'm sorry, Leighton, but made no difference for me, believe it or not. And it's very interesting, because talking about crop steering, when I go visit my friends, that we're kind of a sort of big team of growers that work for this brand, right? And some of the guys on the team, they grow in cocoa and they grow in rockwool. And they're showing me in their grows different crop steering strategies, different results. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
They can control the shit out of their plants, make them look completely different. Side by side, like that's the same cut. I cannot believe it. It smells different. It smokes different. I smoke side by side. I do everything side by side. Incredible what they can achieve with crop steering. That being said, trying to crop steer in my beds, with this cut anyway, it just didn't do it. Like it didn't make it look more modern looking, frostier or whatever.
So it's because the bed has a more balanced system. So your dryback, even though you went down to what kind of millibar, or what level was that?
Okay, well, let's talk about that. It's hard to tell what I go down, because when you start really drying with those tensiometers, what happens is that the soil, as it dries, puts more suction on that tensiometer. You know what I mean? And that's what makes the millibar go up. But what it also does is it takes water out of that tube, and the drier it gets, the more it takes water out of the tube, and the more there's less water, the less there's water in that tube, the higher that number goes on your tensiometer, and it's misleading.
Exactly right. It's you've been out of the parameter. You cause what we call a spiral event, because as it goes down, it becomes less accurate, right?
Yes. So what you can do is, as it goes down, take your tensiometer, fill it back up right to the top, and put it back in, and that's going to give you a more accurate reading of where you're actually at, in my experience, because I've messed around a lot with it.
That was really smart for you to do. That you figured out how the flaw in. Are you frozen?
It's really,
looks like you froze up again.
I'm good.
Okay, good. Your picture's frozen, but we could hear you, so that's good. So yeah, that was a really valuable find and a great recommendation for the audience. If you are using tensiometers and you are using a soil that does create that suction, that vacuum, oh boy, well, he'll come back. That you do maintain the level of water in the actual tube, so that you don't have swings and misinformation as the thing comes out. I was just sending home a message about the fact that you figured that out was so important in keeping the instrument accurate.
I think he must be having some problems on the East Coast with his internet.
Are they in the middle of storms out there?
I'm not sure. I haven't been following the East Coast at all. Are you in storms, Tom?
No, we're good. Is it just me that's
yeah.
You know what? Try this.
Out?
Go back off and come back on again. Sometimes that helps.
Yeah, for you, Tom. Jump off and jump back on.
How do I come back on?
Well,
jump off and then reuse the link. Okay, well, I'll kick him off again.
But I think it would be better if he does it, because you did it and it kind of worked. But if he does it, maybe that'll be another little better way. Tom?
Yeah, no, he's just stuck there. But at least he's smiling.
You know what? Let me fill this up again.
Okay.
The medicine's giving me dry mouth.
Okay. So, guys, we're talking about the Horizonal soil system.
By the way, this stuff is fucking amazing.
And there he's back again. We'll see. And
it's going to work flawlessly now.
It very well could, Tom. You just never know. So Leighton's just grabbing some water. He's got dry mouth from his medications that he's on right now. But the Horizonal system is amazing. And switching to a straight organic Horizon, I think part of the problem it would be the long term, because you're going to have to keep amending it to keep the balance of nutrition, where with the sand, silt, and clay in the other Horizon, the biology is actually able to draw those molecules out for your plant, where if you're just using a super soil, you're depleting it, where with the sand, silt, and clay, you're getting those molecules available through the entire system. The longer it goes, the more biology is in those other layers, breaking down those components and moving them up through the soil structure for the plants.
100%. But still, like when you're growing like me in an indoor setting, that you're pushing those plants to the max. In my experience, those plants will suck up still a ton of nutrients, and you need to compost to get ahead of those nutrients needs. Because I know what you're saying, those nutrients in the sand, silt, and clay can get biology can keep mining it long term for sure, but it's not enough. So the soil testing and the amending is extremely still important. But that being said, it's about regenerative practice, practicing this and adding that compost that really ties it all together.
And you look in Canada where we get these freezes, that's where things are supposed to be added in by the biology over the winter time, where you're doing constant use of those beds. So you have to do those extra amendments and keep track of that in a commercial grow like you've got, especially.
Yeah, totally. So
I'll get back off.
Hey,
no, it's all good. What were we talking about? So bottom line, crop steering.
Am I all fuzzy to you?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Did you put your finger on your camera? I mean, what did you do, Leighton?
I don't think I did.
We're having a lot of problems right now.
Oh, no, there was a picture we didn't need to see,
Went down my throat. There we go.
Oh, yeah, you're looking better now. I think it was just your camera wasn't grabbing the focus properly.
Perfect. All right. Sorry. So we were talking about crop steering, which is really
big differences in hydro, not so much in the soil beds. And the reason why I tried crop steering is I was telling myself, well, maybe those small pots are drying back quicker and I'm getting more of a crop steering type of effect. But I don't think that was, it kind of proved that it wasn't it. It didn't prove it, because I'm sure I can't dry back my bed as much as a pot, but I'm not letting the pot dry back anyway. So
you did see a difference when you let your pots dry back, or you did not?
No, I never really tried drying back the pot. The pot itself, I'm having zero issues. Like it looks stellar. It's everything. So I wanted to see why I was getting frostier nugs in the small pots versus the beds. That was the whole point. And it's not about crop steering. It's not about the media. I think, like you were saying earlier, it's all about
genetic expression. You're steering.
There you went again. And one of the other things is wind load has makes a huge difference on plants. I know years ago I was watching a video with Kevin Jodrey, and he was talking about the one crop that he was growing in an upper valley, and he had constant wind load.
Dude, and he has his grow is called Port Royale. It's a big sign, right? And it's on top of a mountain. Like I've been up there, and the season has changed within 2 hours. Like it was cold, wet, and rainy and the fog rolled in, and the fog burned off. The sun came out, and it was fucking hot. And I've also seen the wind pick up like crazy and then drop off. So yeah, his growth stresses plants in a very, very unusual way.
Well, he took that same strain that was beautiful on top of the mountain under the wind load into a valley that didn't have it, and it had totally different genetic expressions out of that strain.
That's crop steering.
Another thing that we discussed last time was under canopy lighting. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
So bottom line, I have the results, and it totally works. I'm getting comfortably over 33% increase in yield.
Yeah.
It's cultivar dependent, but I would say it's minimum 33% increase. There you go.
So what lights are you using for the
those are called those are made by Grandmaster level. They're 120 watts, and I put 2 per 4x4.
So they're low wattage.
Relatively speaking, but still in a 2x4, I'm adding 240 watts of light. So that's pretty intense.
But it's just keeping relative to above the canopy, correct? It's not way different.
No, I mean it's less intensity from below for sure. So let's say on a 4x4, today's lights, man, are so efficient that I don't even know if I'm running 600 watts on a 4x4 because I'm using dimmers. Yeah. But let's say I'm around 600 watts on a 4x4. So that's from up top. From below, I'm using 240. So I'm using,
You're using a lot less, bottom line.
From the bottom.
Yeah. So might be fun to intensify one of those so it's as equal coming from the bottom as it is the top. Has anyone ever?
I thought about it, yes, and I agree with you. Like, I think you could even do it more from the bottom and keep getting better results. That being said, one of the challenges for that would be like adding more bars. I guess you'd have to have one custom made that would be more powerful.
Is it tube or LED?
It's LED, yeah.
So I think they can increase the intensity based on the voltage that they throw through them. But that being said, if the light emitting diode is not strong enough to handle it, then it'll burn out. So maybe they're cheaper diodes that aren't as strong that can take that as high intensities, but I don't know, reach out to the company and see if I add some more, higher voltage to this, can I get these to go on brighter, or are they going to pop?
Well, right now I'm running them 240, and that's the most I can get in my building. Like, I don't have three phase or nothing. So,
well, my point is, it's about the diode, not about the juice. If you've got 240, that's plenty of fucking juice.
Yeah.
You just don't want to burn the diode out if you increase voltage to those lights. But you may be able to just increase the voltage to them, and you're off to the races. Have you ever seen those little voltage regulators? You jack them in full power, and then you can you can take exactly what you want in amps and volts.
Okay, yeah. But bottom line, the intensity and the wattage that I'm using right now is pretty much an industry standard right now. Have people tried with more wattage, more intensity? I'm not sure. So I'd have to try, but I'm really seeing a big increase in yield. I would say the increase is about proportional to how much wattage that I'm adding with my lights. So what's a big advantage though is, okay, I'm getting proportionally as much grams per watt of lighting. So it's not really an increase, but at the same time, you don't have to build a new room. Okay. And for some reason, the plants don't drink proportionally that much more, and therefore the humidity isn't that much more either. Okay, so it's more just concentrating on really developing all those bottom buds and getting a lot more yield out of those bottom buds, but it's not really affecting humidity that much. And like I said, you don't need to build another room. It does add heat to your room, but I think that's one of the reasons why you don't need more humidifiers, because of the extra heat. Your ACs are working that much harder, giving you more dehumidification. So all in all, it just beautifully works well together.
So let's talk about the 33% yield.
Yeah,
That,
game changer, big time
dude,
game changer.
that total game changer. I mean, you said you don't even need to build a bigger room or another room. You at that position, if you could maybe push it to 50% more with a higher wattage, good God, dude. Now you've like doubled your profit potentially, as well as you cut your expenses because you didn't have to build another room.
And since the buds are that much more developed at the bottom, the time it takes to trim it is like per gram a lot less. So that's another win. Okay. What are the other wins? Like there's just so many. But yeah, bottom line, it's really been a game changer. And per square foot, my last grow, I was close to 100 grams a square foot. So I don't know if you calculate grams per square foot as if that's the way you see it, but yeah, it's next level.
But yeah, dude, that's fucking huge. And again, you didn't increase your trim time.
Yeah.
I mean, between those two things, those are your biggest labor to get to market.
Yeah. So 100 grams per square foot, friggin' regenerative gardening, like I'm hitting like rock wool weight, even more, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how many ounces in a gram?
28 grams in an ounce.
All right. So do the math. What is that? A pound per square foot?
It's what, like 3.5 ounces per square foot, something like that.
Yeah. And the other conversion that most people use is pounds per watts, right? And so if you increase that square footage to where it would equal a pound, then you back into it and say, my lighting system is producing per watt how many pounds per, and that's all another form of math.
Like I like that form for seeing like how good your lights are, but bottom line, it's like how good of a grower you are. It's like you have this square foot, how much weed can you grow on it?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's why I like the per square foot better, because you might have a less efficient light, so you might be running more wattage than me, but you might be hitting the same light intensity, right? So
too many variables.
Yeah, exactly. So the per square foot bottom line, I feel like everyone can be kind of on the same apples to apples. The other thing that I think a lot about is not just gram per square foot, it's gram per square foot per day, right? So you can do that calculation if you want to figure out how much veg time you should be going with and when your harvest time should be, right? Because let's say you're getting a little bit less weight, but you cut your veg a week, and then you calculate your yield per square foot per day, then you can really make a decision on how much is that veg time worth, right? And how much extra yield am I getting by going 5-6 days more? Is it worth per day the investment?
Dude, you just fucking never cease to amaze me in your abilities to.
Well, it's a business, so you got to be thinking about that shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of businesses out there that don't go to your level, motherfucker.
Well, that's why they're all gonna die. I'm just kidding. I love the part of business where you try to stay alive.
Right.
You know, that it's not for everyone, but I actually like being on the edge, and like, you know, it motivates you to get better and better. And
let's talk about that for a minute, because this was something that Kevin Joggery talked a lot about back in the day, is about business. It's not easy, and like he was like telling them, you guys got to go into craft, or you're never gonna friggin' survive this if you try to compete with these big guys. And you know, and at the end of the day, like if you roll it back to the deeper understanding about the aspects that you're talking about, like, you know, surviving and actually making the business thrive, right? That's next level shit, which is exactly what you're talking about. And how is your bottom line? How is your business, dude? We've been hanging out for quite a while now. How are you doing business wise? Are you great? You okay? You fine?
I would rate it as great. Yes. So it was a little tough because my business partner and I started with very little. So what we had to do is start small, and the profit that we made, we reinvested in our grow for the first 5 years. And we're about 6 years in now. So we've been operating for about a year with finally the dream built. So to build the dream was reinvesting profit for 5 years. But now that the dream is built and it's fully operating, we're doing killer. And we have no debt.
And that's something that so many people don't understand. As soon as you borrow money from an investor or bank or whatever, there's called an ROI, return on investment, and you are handcuffed to that ROI. And that's where most businesses fail, because they didn't take the long road, the hard road that you took, Tom. They just want the instant cash, the instant build with all these grand ideas of making millions of dollars. And they fail left and right.
Oh yeah, a lot of the, like, humans will go for the gold rush mentality. It's gonna happen. It happened, and now there's kind of a, you know, a little purge going on, if you want to call it that. And the strong are gonna survive. It's just the same with any business.
So let's talk about that, because I have a very special guest coming on soon to talk about like the industry as a whole. It's down here in California, but he's also done some amazing genetics work. He's done some crazy road trips to get some Landry shit. So we have a lot to talk about. Like that one's probably going to need 2 or 3 sessions with that. But anyway, rolling it back to that point is that, you know, oh shit, I just lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? What was the last thing I said?
You were saying that
business. What is the climate up there? Because I know weed prices crashed all over the place down here. Did they crash up there as well?
What crashed? I'm not an expert, because I've been really lucky to be teamed up with this sort of team that I was talking about, this brand that has contract growers and everybody's working together. So I'm not selling directly to retail. I have a deal with my buyer, the guy, the company that I contract grow for. I have a deal with them, a price per gram, right? So in my knowledge anyway, where the price per gram is crashed right now in Canada is B2B, right? So if you are growing cannabis and you don't have a buyer, you don't have a contract grow, you don't have a good steady relationship with a buyer, you're just putting your your product up for sale, you're screwed. Okay. So yes, the prices are crashed in that sense. That being said, if you have a good established brand that has SKUs, that has product on the shelves in retails, and you're doing well and it's moving well, you're one of those lucky companies. Has the price crashed? Well, no. You're doing well, but I would say that that's few and far between. Like actually having a brand that's in high demand and it's moving a lot.
Well, that's a direct reflection on your team, your growing team, because
Yes.
everything I hear about the commercial grows up there is this stuff is hay. It's complete crap, and nobody wants to buy it, and that's why they have to give it away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
So the quality is huge, but it's also being good at business too. It's big business, you know. I know it's not a comparison, but let's say you go in a grocery store and there's a ton of different cereals. Like, let's say you're gonna start your own cereal. When it's gonna be harder than you might think to have a place on the shelves in those grocery stores, right? To have those SKUs. So you need a really business savvy person to make that happen. And the owner of
so that's called entering the market cost. So if you're entering the market, you have to sell your product so cheap that the grocery store is going to make so much money that they're going to want you in, right? That's how they let you in. And it's the same in the cannabis industry. You don't have a branding. You don't have a company that has, all the main buyers for all of the dispensaries. You're going to have to pay that price to enter, and you're fighting an uphill battle the whole time while everyone's making money around you off of you. And they're going to hold you in that position as long as they can because they want all the money, right? So that's what's killing the vast majority of the market, the quality, and the fact of entering into the market. You obviously are working with a very savvy company that has
extremely, in my opinion, the best. And not only are they good at selling across Canada, but they have distribution international. So they need to move product. They have all kinds of different avenues. So for me, again, like I said, I'm kind of living my dream. Is I didn't want to deal with that side of the business. I wanted to be the grower. I actually like the labor of growing. I want to use my hands. I want to be growing. That's what I'm doing. And I'm delivering consistent quality that sells in retail. So they keep doing their job and they keep getting that weed where it needs to go and it sells. So we're all happy.
Nice.
And congratulations. We're not part of that story that a lot of people are a part of and are like struggling big time.
Yeah, dude, I just want to really give you a pat in the back because you did well, dude. You went about it appropriately. You didn't get crazy out of the gate. You didn't step on your dick by not doing your homework, which is a lot of people don't do the homework behind it all. And you won. You got to the place of everybody's dream. Everything's paid off. Everything that comes in goes in my pocket, and I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, I would, as a businessman too, I would like to have debt because debt can be good. Okay, so that's something that banks will not give me, and I regret a little bit because if you do financial calculations, like you can calculate a certain debt load that is at your advantage. Like I'm a real estate guy too. So I do appreciate a certain amount of healthy debt. But I'm trying to say like it's another challenge in cannabis. If you were going to get some debt, maybe you could at the beginning of legalization, maybe kind of predatory really high interest debt. But bottom line, like you're right, I'm happy that I can operate with no debt and
Hey,
have
dude, you're absolutely right about that, and people don't get this because what debt provides you is the ability to lower your taxes, right?
yeah, that's
That,
one big thing. Yeah, you can write off interest, and it's a way to your business has a value, right? And that amount is locked in to your business. So what provides you is you can liquidate a little bit of that value to help you grow, right?
well, that's
Um,
it's right. It's better to be, exactly borrow against the company, improve or make the company bigger,
right.
and use that leverage debt to reduce the cost of your taxes, which are a huge part of the whole picture. That's
Yeah.
how billionaires become billionaires.
Yeah. So I personally like I play that game in real estate. I own income properties. I have a portfolio, and I've been working on that my whole adult life. And that's how I could begin this business because I could get I could pull equity out of real estate and use it to start off with this business. But that being said, I know I'm a little bit anti-capitalist about it, but I'm actually happy where I am, and I actually like don't want to grow bigger.
Sure.
You know, we're running this, relatively speaking, small grow compared to huge stock market grows, but it's still a damn big grow op. And I want to do the labor mostly myself. I have some of my very trusted buddies working with me too with the labor, but going bigger, I could easily lose control on quality. So we're all happy. We're loving what we're doing. I actually like don't want to grow. I've been building this for 5 years. It's built. We're operating it. So yeah, I don't really want it.
Yeah, and again, there's many ways to look at it. You hit what I want to call everybody's dream. Have their own business, have the freedom, come and go, do whatever you want. In my case, I love my work. I want to work 7 days a week.
Yeah,
I get bored if I'm not playing with compost and shit.
yeah,
So it's a passion of the very few people find in their life, their purpose, what really makes their soul sing. And so congratulations, dude. Really, seriously.
I'm so happy in life. Like I show up every morning, and like our shop is surrounded by forest, right? And guess who I hired? All my friends.
Oh God, it doesn't get
Crazy.
that.
Like it's crazy.
1 in a million, dude. 1 in a fucking million.
Nah, it's fucking beautiful.
All right. So, do you want to talk some more about the pictures that you prepared? Because
yeah, well, that's just to show you. That's my sub irrigation. You see that little float thing? It makes sure that the water doesn't ever go higher than an inch or so. And I've tried with tensiometers, just drybacks, this, that. I've smoke tests side by side. There's just no advantage in trying to fuck around with water. It's just always back to that bottom watering.
Great to know in this system because I don't know if you ever heard of the guy Michael Hinden.
No.
All right, he was very popular out here in Southern California, and he likes to crop steer using water or not water. He was a breeder. So what he would do is he would put his pot on the scale, and when it got to a certain weight, he'd water it to a certain weight. Yeah. And that was his foundation of everything. That's how he got such good breeds or such good breeding or genetics out of whatever he bred. So yeah, I love that you do that. And just say,
A
hey,
lot of,
yeah,
I just wanted to try a bunch of different ways to see if I would see different expressions in plants, if I would smoke it differently, et cetera, et cetera. And then bottom line, I'm at the point where, okay, bottom irrigation is the way to go for me. That being said, I do water from the top every day just to keep maybe the two top inches wet, and it does make a difference. Another big thing that I've noticed is at the end of the beds. I'm not sure if there's some kind of wicking phenomenon going on, that there's more water that goes into the middle of the bed and there's a disadvantage at the ends of the beds. But I've been watering at the end of the beds an extra 30 seconds. Okay, it depends on your water. Yeah.
So do you have a mulch layer on top of your bed?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really important to hold that moisture in the
top. 100%. Yeah.
This phenomenon about the ends of the beds is
so
there a slope to the floor?
Well, I was noticing that the plants were shorter at the end of the beds. Okay. So my canopy was going like this and then just dropping. Right. Okay. So I was like, okay, well, it might be a light intensity thing, but I wanted to try watering more, see what would happen. And I started watering 30 seconds on the two last squares at each end of the beds. And the plants stayed the same height, amazingly. So it was a watering thing. For some reason, if you bottom water, the ends of your beds are going to be disadvantaged. Okay. Not only did that 30 seconds make everything equal, but honestly, they were a little bit taller. Okay. So I started doing 30 seconds extra at the end of the beds and 15 seconds for the rest of the beds on top of bottom irrigation. And that sort of exact top watering, which is relatively low still, with the bottom watering gives me the best results.
So I'm willing to bet you, if you put an absolute perfect laser level on that the ends of the beds are a little higher than the middle. Because
maybe yes and no, because I okay, check it out. I did it with a laser, first of all. So the whole thing was leveled out with a laser, and when you flood those tables that the beds are sitting on, water doesn't lie, and it is very even the whole way.
All right. So maybe the phenomenon is that the end of the bed has an end that's exposed. So for some reason, because remember, in the middle of the beds, the ends aren't exposed. You only have two sides, not three sides of.
Totally, that could totally be it. Yeah,
it's got to be something, dude. Got to be something.
Or could it be like the whole body of soil? Could it have like some kind of wicking phenomenon that it sort of wicks towards the middle and those ends are disadvantaged?
Of course, dude. Of course. I mean,
that's kind of my theory, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a living organism. It could be doing all kinds of crazy shit, right?
The other thing is that, okay, when in the grow is this more crucial? There is totally a part of the cycle where this is more crucial, where the extra watering is more crucial. Okay. And it's the 3 first weeks of flower.
Oh,
okay. Nice. So that's where you got to pump that extra water, because any part of your beds that are going to be a little bit underwatered, you're going to see shorter plants.
So have you continued the practice all the way through flower, or did you end it after 3 weeks?
I've tried both. Okay. And there's no ill effect in continuing, but I'm not really seeing much difference if I stop. after those 3 crucial weeks.
Wow, you really do the work, man. You really do the work.
It's important.
Yeah, no, hell yeah. This is what most people forget is that they just, I call them experts. Like they knew something at one point in their time and they're going to ride that expert for the rest of their life instead of saying, I need to look at something else. I need to learn more about my expertise, right?
Yeah. Again, it's about survival too for me. Like it's part obsession where like I'm really passionate and I truly want in my heart to get to the bottom of it. But it's also like in my head, if I'm always at the top of the fucking game, I have less chances of dying, you know,
or getting caught up with. No one will catch up with you. You'll always be 3 paces ahead.
That's what I'm trying. Yeah. Before we run out of time, I just wanted to mention another side-by-side
Sure.
that I've been doing is I've been in the same grow in the same room. Some grows show a bed where the plants yellow out a lot more than in other beds, same grow. And I've been testing the soil and it's the nitrogen. So a bed that would have yellower plants would be deficient in nitrogen by the end of the grow. Okay. And I side by side smoked a few grows and I labeled a much yellower plant and I labeled a much greener plant. And the smoke is actually noticeably better on the greener plant. So for some reason, if you go deficient in nitrogen, it affects the smoke. Do you think that makes sense to you?
Oh, absolutely.
I would have thought the opposite. It's not a placebo thing when I'm smoking it because I thought less nitrogen would be smoother.
So bottom line is it's nutrition. Now you're getting back into flavonoids and nutritional effects on the plant. So you let it run deficient at a certain point in time, then it's not going to grow as well as the other plants because they had all the right nutrition at the right time.
Yeah, so that's why I've been cranking amino acids a lot to make sure that I don't go nitrogen deficient by the end of the grow.
Yep, no, that's genius because aminos you can't overdo it because the bacteria are going to eat them up. So you're just giving them that little bump like that. As soon as that animal or that human shows a tiny deficiency, that's when you hit it, and you hit it with something like an amino acid that's going to have an immediate effect on the plant.
Yeah. So I the last grow I did, I was having real troubles getting my soil samples to Logan Labs in Ohio because I was having trouble with the border. The border was just declining my soil samples for some reason. So long story short, I sort of changed everything, changed the shipping company, tried different shit. I figured out a way to get it across, long story short. So I'm back on track. Okay. But I had a grow that I had to go blind. And that was my last grow that I just harvested. And I fed it amino acids pretty heavy twice a week. And it's probably the smoothest smoke that I've ever grown. It's perfect. That being said, I tested the soil after, and the grow finished around, Ken actually has those results. The grow finished around 200 part per million of nitrate, which is very high. Yeah. But somehow, and that was caused, it had to be from the amino acids.
And or bacteria. It was probably the bacteria.
Fed by the amino acids.
Exactly, right. Yeah.
There you go. So even a high nitrate amount like that ended up incredibly smooth. And we're talking about white ash, perfect white ash, perfectly smooth.
Again, that's lack of carbon and more nitrogen. Because remember, if the plant's starving, it'll take up carbon because it can use carbon. can use carbon in its cell walls and cell division. So it's still going to, you're giving it a different choice of foods. You're giving it a healthy food, smoke only, taste only. You're giving it a healthier food in a nitrogen form that it can control, right? If there's nitrogen there and it wants nitrogen, it'll take nitrogen over carbon every time because it's easier for it to do different plant processes. But there ain't no nitrogen, it's going to pull carbon. So that's why you're seeing that high level of nitrate. It's because that at Logan they're using malic 3, which is the strongest acid you could do, which kills all the bacteria. And then now the nitrate is readable on the test.
So this is the malic 3 that we were talking about.
Is this all right? Let me look at this. This is the soil report. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't see that. Is there any way you can blow it up, Ken? All right. You want to see it to the left of the page. So just blow it up some more. And so we don't need to see the empty columns. There you go. Back a little bit just so we can see the numbers.
So this is it at the end of a grow.
Okay. All right. Start at the top and we'll work our way down.
Yeah.
All right.
So see my pH is pretty bang on, 6.4.
Yep. And your cation exchange capacity is in good shape. So you got 14.87. That's very high.
I finished with a lot of phosphorus, but I think that's okay.
All right, slide down. Phosphorus can be in many forms. Some of it in the organic form is all bound up and it can't be released unless you have the right microbes. And as a matter of fact, when I test any soil, the fucking phosphorus is through the fucking roof. It's ridiculous. I had a long talk about available versus organic phosphorus with the head scientist at this lab. And she's like, Leighton, there's so much organic phosphorus in the soil. It's ridiculous. We can't even measure it. We have to do a different test on this just so that we're getting some kind of reality to what's available in the soil. Right. Not what's in the pool. You follow me?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And if we can look at this quickly, like I actually found a little bit more interesting in the saturated paste.
So what I do is I zip down this. So go ahead and slowly scroll down, Ken. There's a couple more things I want to see before we flip to the next one. Nice amount of potassium, a little high on sodium, but no, so what? All right, keep going through that. That's
at least you're a lot lower in sodium than in potassium.
You're right. Boron,
so got like percentage here, like my sodium is at 3.44, and if you go a little up, Ken, like my potassium is at 10.4, right? So I'm comfortably like higher in potassium than sodium. Matter of fact, my potassium is a little high.
Which it typically is in compost, which is okay. All right, scroll back down and stop on the white top when the white hits the top. All right, so boron, you're a little low. Iron is good. Manganese is good. Copper is good. Zinc's good. Aluminum is low. That's awesome. Molybdenum, you've got to get some moly, dude. That's going to take.
Yeah, I have some. Yeah. Okay, the nitrate is here. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. So this one, okay, this is after a grow, okay, but it's not after I fed a shitload of amino acids. Okay. So like I said, the shitload of amino acids gave me like a 200 nitrate at the end of a grow. And this one was a lot more reasonable at 50.
So what do you like to see the nitrate at the end of the grow?
Well, I don't know. I was really surprised at how incredible the results were at 200. But I think 200 is probably more than it should. I've never actually grown at 200.
So, all right, I'll try to ask the question a little different. Before you start playing with amino acids, what would you like to see the nitrate level be at the beginning of the grow? So you knew you were going to be all set till the end.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Leighton, is I always test at the end of the grow, and I should be testing at the middle and maybe later on, but I always go with where I am at the end and what I'm adding and
that's
how I'm ending again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like,
As long as you know how to add in so that you
yeah.
get through the cycle, that's fine. You can
So
look at it either way. Either
So
you,
what I've been noticing is when I get down to like under 10 ppms at the end of a grow, that wasn't enough.
Gotcha.
That's deficient. I'm having problems.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I should be ending my grow like we just saw there, like maybe 40 ppms.
Okay. Well, that's
Right?
all that matters. And now you know
Yeah,
how to amend
that's
it.
all that matters. Yeah. So bottom line is if I added enough, I should be ending my grow around 35, 40. But if I'm just going crazy on aminos and I end at 200,
You're
it's
all set.
actually a non-issue.
Yeah, yes, you're all set.
It's incredible.
That's a really, really great find. That's just how safe aminos are. Dude, those have only been around for a couple, 3 years. Like,
Really?
and everybody's doing them now. It's
Yeah.
you still got to know your product, man. Like, don't just run out and buy any amino acid. Do your research. Do your
No, this is organic certified, non-GMO.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's almost perfect, Ken. Just a little bit wider so we can see the numbers. No, all right, that is okay. I just wanted to make sure I was seeing.
Okay, go down now. Yeah, so you see still 6.4 soluble salts are, I find a little low. Like I can re-amend a little bit, you know.
Chloride fine, bicarbonate you're fine, sulfur you're nice and lime. Got plenty of phosphorus, calcium, available calcium. Wow, that's great. So people and potassium's a little high, but that's all right because you have so much humic acid. Now, what people don't understand is that the more cation exchange capacity you have, the more calcium you can store. And that means when the plant wants a calcium, it's got plenty. The calcium ratio, which we'll look at in a second, the calcium to magnesium, magnesium, potassium percentages are really important. But having those available in a soluble form, so it's easily going to stick to a CEC site, is good because the calcium is a double positive bonded atom, so it can knock sodium off of the cation exchange sites, and it can actually knock magnesium and potassium off the site. So it's a very powerful thing to have available. I'll shut up. Keep scrolling, Ken.
Another mention too, like the one I kind of wanted to show you was the one with like the really high nitrate numbers, just to show you like, wow, this is how I ended, and it was still friggin' great. But this is very interesting too, because this is like a typical end of grow result that I've been seeing since adding compost to my grows. So basically, in my opinion, this is pretty damn close to perfect. And this is what I'm ending with, right? Yeah. So I'm ending a grow with this that I don't really have to add much, okay? But instead of not adding much, I go ahead and I add my compost. So what compost has been doing for me is it's actually been prepping me a grow ahead, like not necessarily for this grow, but I'm even ready for the next one after. You know what I mean? So you're always ahead of a grow.
And again, once the system is balanced, and I mean biogeochemically, because chemistry is the only limiting factor to biology, then these numbers will shake out. Now, typically I tell people you want to start with 70-75% calcium. You want to see 15 to 20% magnesium and 5 to 10% potassium. That's a perfect balance to start. But when you have the whole system running like you do, these numbers can fluctuate because it's just, again, it's what's available in a weak acid, what's soluble in a weak acid. So it's what's available in the soil.
Yeah. But I still find it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I still find it pretty amazing how well everything is balanced with mostly just compost.
Yep. Again, now here's where you're starting to get imbalance. Go up a little bit more so we see trace elements. So boron's low, manganese is low, zinc is low. Zinc is one of the unsung heroes of the plant world. Plants love zinc, but they want it in a mineral form so that they can mine it, and they want the bacteria that mine it. And this is where, like the diversity of using worm castings, a really good biodynamic or biologically rich compost that has lots of protozoa and nematodes, and then a true balance between that and a fish product, AMO, so an aquatic microorganism. So with the aquatic microorganisms, you get one type. You get solubilizers and degraders, and if there's zinc in the soil, they can degrade it and solubilize it, right? Yeah. So, and the only place you're going to get that level of diversity is really in untouched soils from humanity, and I don't think that exists anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to start it up by using those three components. Worm castings, the DNA in that is incredibly diverse. Again, your biocomplete compost with all the predators, they'll cyst up and they'll hang till it's time. And then lastly, the AMOs, and you can collect AMOs anywhere. You can go to any river or healthy stream and pond, especially if you throw it under a slide and you see rotifers and you see other different weird shaped bacteria. You got something good.
Well, what we do is we take after a harvest, we cut all the stems with no buds, the bottom of the plant, and all those stems are chucked in the forest until they dry out and they start to decompose, and then I bring them back in and I put them in the soil. So that's my IMOs right there, I would say.
So you're using it as a mulch layer?
Those stems?
Yeah.
No. After spending a few months in the forest, they come back in to go in the compost.
So you're mixing them into the compost?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
it's
time to use.
Yeah, I misunderstood you. I thought you laid those as a mulch. I had that conversation with another person recently, and I said, "Yeah, you don't have to use like forest mulch, or chunky compost. You can just grind your stalks up. I mean, they're all stringy and weird, and shred them, and then just lay the top layer of that right on to protect your soil. Because at the end of the day, you need a mulch on top of a living soil.
Yeah. For me, I've tried a lot of mulches, a lot of ways. For me, in my commercial situation, I like straw a lot because you don't have too many decomposers going out of whack, and some decomposers can crawl up your plants and stick in buds, and you don't want that on retail shelves.
No.
So for me, it's just more simple, safer with the straw mulch. That's
what. And the straw mulch is it shredded or is it just like hay? Because the difference between hay and straw, right? Straw is brown or yellow, and hay is green. And
it's yellow. Yeah.
So you use the yellow stuff. So that's a carbon source.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic mulch.
But yeah, like when you mention about the micronutrients there, I am on top of that. And I do re-amend when needed. Once in a while, I do need to put in some iron sulfate or maybe some copper sulfate, just to get those numbers where they should be. You mentioned manganese. A thing that I noticed about manganese is no matter what, even if I re-amend a lot of manganese, the saturated pace seems to be very low, where in the Malic 3, it'll be at a decent number. And my hypothesis in this, because I've been seeing this grow after grow, is I think maybe the biology is making that that manganese available, and you're seeing it appear in the saturated pace at very low levels. The plant is uptaking it, and it's getting just released very slowly. So that's why it looks deficient in a saturated paste, but not necessarily in a standard.
All right.
You
So the answer to that is, and I'm just going to say this for the audience because you probably already know this. The Malik 3 is the overall pool. So
Yes.
everything that's available.
And in the pool, it's there.
Most of that is unavailable. It's
Yes.
in organic form. So if you do not have the right bacteria releasing those minerals, then they are not available on the saturated paste, because saturated paste means it's mobile. It's flowing through the soil. Now, that could mean that your plant's taking it up faster than the bacteria can make it available. Does that make sense?
It could be, but
that would answer your question as to why is it so low? Why is it high in total, but so low in the available, in the soluble?
Yeah. And I've spoken to this about this issue with other growers that test their soil like me, and they're seeing the same thing with manganese. And we were always thinking that we were always having a problem with manganese, but after overthinking it, I'm just down to like, okay, this is normal that it's really low in the saturated paste. I'm not seeing any problems with the plants. That's number one.
So you want to learn the truth of that or not?
Sure.
Send out a soil sample, beginning, middle, and end. And if it starts out high in saturated paste in the beginning, and you see it decrease as the grow goes, now you know the plant's using more of it than the bacteria can make available.
Yeah.
Poof. That would be an amazing test, dude. When are you coming back on? We got to get you back on again, dude.
Next week he's back on for the panel anyway.
Yeah, that's the panel. I'm really looking forward to that because each one of you have had different experiences, different levels of growing skills and experiences, and so it's really going to be great to be able to chop it up with 3 people on something that I didn't invent, man. Nature did. I just showed it to people, right? And it helps a lot of people. So
it's going to be Travis and Josh, is it?
Yes, exactly right.
Cool.
And Travis is on his 3rd run, and Josh, I don't know how old his system was, but it's been a while. I think he might have had 3 runs in it, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a blast. And
Travis's grow looks nuts,
right?
Oh my God, that's the craziest shit ever. Like light depth, but full indoor, full control. Like, dude.
So let's do this because there are 5 questions. You're definitely coming on again. Thank you so much for the questions, the knowledge, and the side-by-sides. You're going to be a hero to any cannabis grower that gets the opportunity to hear this podcast. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, a lot of it is on the drying out at the end. Guys are saying, it's the lights, is it the airflow? Because it's at the end, it's getting extra airflow. But the one question I think we'll pull up is, does Tom feed anything or foliar feed anything in veg?
I don't. No, I'm not against it, but I've tried side-by-sides, foliar feeding magnesium, and I've tried foliar feeding calcium and magnesium, and no difference. So that's all I tried, though. I haven't done any like compost teas or nothing like that. But yeah.
Now, can you give us the name of the amino acids product that you use?
I buy it from a company out of Ontario called Black Swallow Living Soils. And I'm not sure of the brand of the amino acids, but that's who I buy it from.
So I'd like to say this, that BioAg, which is a company I have deep respect for, Bob was a friend of mine, still is. He's done the research. I mean, he almost got thrown in jail for being a spy with the Russians because he was studying humic acid in Russia because they were so far ahead of us. And then he came back and made a humic acid product, started by calling it Clodbusters. This is back when he was a kid, like in his 30s. And he's been developing that product and a whole bunch of other ones. Full Power, which is a fulvic acid that works really well. And now he's deep into the aminos. They're available anywhere in the United States, and I think you can get them in Canada too, buddy. But I highly recommend people play around with these amino acid products. They're unbelievable. Every time I talk to the big guys over at Biohack, they're saying we're seeing all kinds of crazy results as a result of our amino acid digesting process.
It's just a little harder to get bioag stuff in Canada. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But I'm talking anybody. Like everybody should play around with these amino acids. They're really new and they're showing incredible potential.
I actually like almost don't even want to talk about it because it's too much of a secret weapon.
Right. All right. We won't talk anymore about that. We're at 2 hours. I'm pretty exhausted. This was a great conversation, dude. I had some wonderful problem solving opportunities. It was like playing Rubik's Cube for me today. You're one hell of a brilliant man, and you are amazing grower. And I love the fact that you ain't gonna quit trying. So much love and appreciation. And as far as you can, thank you so much for all the shit you do behind the scenes to make this happen every day. And I'm sure you have some laundry to hang out to dry.
Yeah, Josh says fourth. It's his fourth run, by the way. He's in the chat. That's Yellow Skunk Farms. He's going to be with Tom, Travis, and Leighton, of course, next week. We're having the panel this Wednesday. Of course, Andy and I are back on talking about his book more and more. But guys, there's so much information. You can go back in the videos. And if you have a chance, join the channel, become a defender of the biology, help support the channel. But guys, thank you so much, everybody in the chat. Leave comments, share this information. The more it gets out, the more people are going to benefit from it. So, Tom, brother, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
My pleasure. Awesome. See you next week.
Oh, and there's this one comment about they had fire. And do we spray our plants with water? Reach out to Wendy. What's her last name? Sonibus Farms on Instagram. She did a whole workshop on how to deal with smoke and soot on your cannabis plants safely and effectively.
Interesting.
Not one out.
Cool. All right, guys. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.